there.
Yep.
All right, Tone, moving on. Now, look, I have very little recollection of any of the old school Godzilla monster movies. I used to watch them all the time at my grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm.
She had them all on VHS. And I was like, okay, cool, man. I watched these and they were fucking dope.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took away, and then the last one before that was 1998's classic Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. And then obviously 2014. Now, the movies I have not been too familiar with lately are the Toho ones, like Shin Godzilla. Is it Shin Godzilla?
Well, so Toho didn't have the property and the rights to Godzilla for many years.
Right.
It's been bouncing around, but yes, they came back into it swinging when they got the rights back and did Shin, if I remember correctly.
So I haven't seen
Maybe
Shin
they sold them.
Godzilla.
Or they weren't building movies, anyways.
And you got talking about this, Jeff. Thank you so much, man. I hope everything's good. I know he just went and
He
saw
just got
this.
out. Yep. Yeah,
I want to get his thoughts when we get to it. But so like Godzilla Minus One started making news that it was going to come over here to the West, and I know you were super excited about it. You're like, I'm gonna go see it on my fucking birthday, and I'm watching. I'm like, okay, cool, man. I don't know too much about Toho stuff, but I don't know if I really want to get into that. You know, I'll just keep watching the legendary, the mind-numbing legendary stuff, and have a good time, and be happy. And this past week, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to go see this. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. I was like, I really want to see this movie because Tone went and saw it. I was like, I want to be able to go see it. So, dude, I went Monday night, and I don't want to say I had low expectations, but I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm sure it's probably pretty good, but, you know, I probably won't get it as much as some of the diehards will. And, you know, we knew about the reviews. There was already rumors, you know, we saw the reviews coming in slowly. Like, oh, people are really liking this. It's reviewing incredibly well.
Because you got to be careful. About a month ago, it hit Japan first. And
Yes.
you know, like over there, it's more than that. It's a phenomenon. It's,
Right.
It's part
exactly.
of their DNA.
It's
so
kind of a biased audience.
Yes,
for the
thoughts.
reviews.
Even seeing that, though, I'm like, well, those are pretty high scores. But, you know, we got to wait.
Tone, I'm going to tell you right now, man. And when I walked out of the theater on Monday night, I was thinking to myself, I was like, look, man, you know, I've seen several Godzilla movies in my lifetime. And I appreciated 2014's Godzilla, the way they tried to redo it in a more gritty nature, bring it down.
On that. Big fan.
Really good movie. After watching this movie, dude, this is by far the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
Which could, depending on your thoughts on the movie, might mean a lot, might not mean much at all. But it's also one of the best movies I've seen in a while. Don't get him started on 98. I don't mind 98 as much as other people do. But Tone, this is seriously one of the better movies I've seen in a long time. Like, it's actually not just a good Godzilla movie, it's a good, really, really fucking good movie overall.
Yeah.
I did not come into this movie expecting an emotionally charged story that involves like people dealing with survivor guilt. I mean, dude, tell me you're making a fucking Godzilla movie where the main protagonist is dealing with survivor guilt, and like you see the clear impact it has on his character and the level of depth that's required to convey that.
The amount of PTSD.
Yeah, like you're really conveying some very serious themes in a movie that I'm expecting is just a bunch of fucking people running around going, ah, and getting stepped on. And so like we're getting hit with this right away, and I was just like, man, this is kind of sad. Like, I fucking feel bad for this guy. You know, you have a flawed protagonist. You've like, I didn't realize it, but you have built up the ideal protagonist, a flawed guy. You know, struggling to deal with the consequences of his actions in the past. Will he be able to redeem him? What's his redemption arc gonna look like?
Yeah. I know.
So you start building that up, and I'm like, okay, I didn't expect all this, but you know, at the same time, I'm like, okay, eventually Godzilla's gonna show up. And it's going to be that goofy, campy fun that I know from Godzilla. Fucking wrong.
Way wrong.
Fucking wrong. This dude, Godzilla, shows up. And again, this is just my opinion. This is the most frightening version of Godzilla that I've ever seen on film. Now, look, take that what you will. You want to overhype it, whatever. This was a terrifying Godzilla. The first sequence, the first big sequence with him, he shows up right away in the smaller sequence, but the first big sequence involves him chasing a minesweeper boat. It's in the trailer. But it's obviously extended watching it live or watching it fully play out. I was like this, Tone, Gorb face and all. I was just like.
The tension was.
It was masterfully shot. The soundtrack was masterfully built around this scene. It was tension, and it was horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, and dude, and we talked about it for the show, a very clever nod to Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the worst part. That's not even the scariest part. Yes, that sequence of events is terrifying. Godzilla looks fucking creepy in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
When they get up close on his face, I'm like, you're fucking creepy, bro. Obviously in the 80s and all the time before that, guy in a rubber suit, oh, he's cute and adorable. 98 Godzilla, what is that? New Godzilla, pretty scary, but I mean, still Godzilla. This one, when you look at his face, you're just like, you are fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But dude, the moment where I was just like, okay, dude, this is out of control, is when you see the devastation that he can cause. Not just by walking around and swinging his tail. I've seen Godzilla use his ray of fire, whatever it's called, the fire ray or heat ray, several times in many movies. This is by far the most devastating ability that he has. And when it hits, you're just like, holy fucking shit, dude.
It really leaned into, as Crash
says, you understand the parallel
atomic breath.
Yes, what the comparisons. I mean, they did a little bit in the 54 movie, but they really bring it home in this one. Like the comparisons that they're trying to make and the social commentary. And I was just like, holy fucking shit, dude.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the most frightening Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that, and you had these set pieces that are very, very frightening and very, very violent.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go back to the story, the human element, and it just continues to build on these characters, not just with the protagonist, but he's got a crew with them that you meet early on. And dude, like you made a great comparison. You were like, it's like the crew in Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
It's Brody, it's Quint, and it's Richard Dreyfuss's character.
Except these guys got along
But these guys all get along
really well
in real life too, not just like Quint and Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss were famously just at odds the entire time. But dude, there is so much chemistry between everybody, and they build this camaraderie where you're just like, man, I fucking care about these humans. They're in a really shitty situation and they're dealing with their own issues, and now they got to bond together and get into and take on Godzilla. Dude, this movie was so fucking good. When you get to the finale and it's everything that you wanted, and like Tom mentioned, dude, you are emotional. You're borderline emotional with the outcome of certain things, of certain storylines, of character arcs, and you're just like, how the fuck is this a Godzilla movie?
I did not expect that.
It is.
I didn't expect a lot, but
the best Godzilla movie I have ever seen, and it's one of the best movies I've seen this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is that good, dude. It is 2 hours, and you are never once going, Now, look, if you're looking for legendary Godzilla stuff, and you need big explosions and indiscernible action and all this shit going on where it's just loud and explosions and bright colors and CG overkill, don't see this movie. I don't want to hear your thoughts on it. I get why you like those ones more than this stuff. But fuck me, dude. If you want a good-ass story, if you can appreciate how hard it is to make a good story in a movie about kaiju about Godzilla, that is a daunting task. And this guy, the director, Takashi Yamazaki, who was just a VFX maestro up until this point. He's done a couple small movies, but like mostly he worked on visual effects for like Shin Godzilla and a bunch of other stuff. They said, hey man, here's $15 million.
Apparently they had been wanting him to do this for a while, but he kept telling them no.
Man,
I thought I had read
he picked the right time to say yes.
So, this story has been on somewhere wanting to be picked up, and either him or somebody else just kept saying no. I'm pretty sure it was him, if I remember reading that correctly.
Can someone explain to me how this movie is topping the box office 1.2? I mean, I think, well, now keep in mind the 1.23 million was for Monday. That was for Monday's showing. It did make 11 million since its release. So the 1.23 million was on Monday. That's when they, which is impressive for a fucking Monday for a movie to make.
For a foreign film.
Yeah, for a foreign film on a Monday
North
to
America.
pull in 1.2 million, that's really impressive. That is no easy feat.
Right.
So, no, in the grand scheme of things, now, if it only made 1.23 million over the course of the weekend or since it came out, that's a different discussion. But on a Monday, it made 1.23 million, which is really good. But, dude, this guy made this movie on $15 million budget. Like the other Godzilla movies, they cost like $200 million.
Yeah, the legendary side of it.
$200 million to make a movie that just doesn't even come close to this one in terms of its overall just quality.
Mm-hmm.
The special effects of this movie, they're really good. Are they great? No, but they don't need to be. It's not that type of movie.
There's not much. Yeah,
they're able to convey how fucking terrifying this Godzilla is without wiping out half a country. You get to see him fuck up a city, and you're just like, okay. And the way he does it, you're like, okay, yeah, he's scary.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. 15 million is crazy when he, dude, exactly. Comparing it to like Dial of Destiny, She-Hulk, all that shit. $15 million is usually one person's fucking paycheck.
I saw those people doing the bits that they did with like 2014 Godzilla, which is, oh, well, there's not enough Godzilla in it and stuff like that. Well, that's how they were able to build this tension in this movie and also make 2014 feel so powerful when you saw him because you don't need to see him in your face the entire time.
The only
it's
thing
like those old school scary movies doing the same thing.
2014 Godzilla is very similar to this one, only the story in this one's better.
Yeah.
And how frightening Godzilla is in this is better than what it is in 2014.
Gareth Edwards wanted the story to be like that. I think it's a combo of either too much storyline going on at the same time, or what's his face that played the main character, Aaron.
Aaron.
I always get it wrong.
Aaron Johnson.
Aaron
Taylor Johnson.
Taylor Johnson, who I really like. His story, when you stop and think about it, there was a really good story.
Yes, it was.
There was a good story there, but a lot of people complained that he was so just like robotic about it, and they're not wrong about that. I think he was supposed to be like becoming.
Is that supposed to like the military thing? Like he's just like desensitized.
Which that's fair. I think people. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's two different comparisons.
Sure.
Whereas in this one, they were able to take that soldier story and make it something that you got emotionally invested in.
Like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, like his struggles were like he was more like burying him in, where this guy just let it all out. In several scenes. I mean, there are scenes where you're just like, man, he's fucking dealing with a lot.
Because Aaron's character, while he was dealing with all the stuff, he was still being like the superhuman superhero guy about it.
Stoic hero.
Right, which is fine and works. And like I said, I don't have a problem with it. A lot of folks do. But like this made it differently because you saw this man break down many times.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see that, that shows vulnerability, and that's when people can relate.
Yeah.
And that's what made it different here with that.
But the biggest takeaway for me, man, is honestly, is just like when you look at this movie, this Toho production, and you think about compared to what Legendary is doing with theirs. And I don't have an issue with what Legendary is doing. They're entertaining films. But you can really see the stark distinction between the two and how they're presented, how they present Godzilla, how they present their stories in such a different manner. Like this one is very grounded. It takes place in World War II. I love the fact that they went back to World War II. That was fucking dope.
It's really kind of almost like I don't think people have said it, but to me it's like this weird mix of a remake, reboot.
Yes, I think you mentioned it. It's like this hybrid of remake and reboot. Yeah. But it's just, man, it's really cool. That's the coolest thing I thought about. It's just like, man, how different it is when Toho does a Godzilla movie and when Hollywood does a Godzilla movie.
Well, it's interesting because we're saying that in 2023. Now, if you dial it back, though, too, is that, for many years throughout all the eras, they've been people in suits. They've had a lot. They've tried to tell stories, and the stories are, not really diverse. There's some interest. I mean, I've even said recently it's almost like they're live action anime in some ways.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? You've always got the soldier, the scientist. You've got the normal person. You mix it in through there, and there's always like some family issue or some issue or something going on in these. But when you're watching them in the suits and stuff like that, you're not always getting like the full emotional investment. They're just fun to watch. They're enjoyable. You know what I mean? But this, now that Toho, starting with Shin, really, kind of dialed it back and just really kind of ground it and made it feel more realistic. I mean, it's through the scope of bureaucracy and politics.
Right.
When you watch Shin, you'll see what I'm saying. Some people don't like it. Even Godzilla fans, they call them boring and stuff like that. But honestly, if you think this one's terrifying, I think the Shin one's a little bit.
Really?
Well, at least as in look. Yeah. Like it's the concept design of it's pretty fucking gnarly.
No, I'm all in on Toho now. Like I'm all in because like this was just such an impactful film because it's like, man, you somehow just made this
and,
emotionally charged Godzilla movie. Like, how'd you do it?
But that's my point. Well, like Toho prior to 2014, you're looking at Legendary who takes it over, and everybody's like, "Oh, an American company's taking
Here comes Warner Brothers."
But to be fair, 2014 really tried to present a very realistic and grounded Godzilla. And it didn't resound well with everybody, and they were like, "There's not enough Godzilla." So then they go to King of the Monsters, which is a personal favorite because it mixes a lot of that old school Toho feel, monster battles, but still there's stakes involved. I mean, Rodan's piecing out entire fight squadrons. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there as well too. Now Legendary, especially since you look at After Skull Island and they got Monarch, but now you're looking at Kong versus Godzilla, which to me felt more like old school campy kind of Toho, like you're watching guys in rubber suits again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It felt more like that. And moving forward with the next Godzilla and Kong as well too, the New Kingdom, it feels the same thing too. Like they're almost, it's almost like they're descaling and Toho is kind of like progressing differently.
Right.
It's really weird.
Awesome.
But the point is, and I'll get into this movie here shortly, is that we are in a time right now, and this is weird for a young kid like me, in mind to think that we're in a timeline right now where like we're getting multiple types of Godzilla content, starting even with some of the cartoons and animes over the last few years. Extra contents, we're getting compendiums, comic books. I mean, there's always been that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Godzilla just kicked the shit out of Superman recently in DC Comics. You know what I mean?
He did,
so
he did.
He's fought the Avengers and the Justice League, but we're getting Toho coming up out of nowhere, creating these very thought-provoking stories, making Godzilla a horror element almost at this point with a really good, like, enriching story. And then Legendary, for all the good and bad of it for people back and forth right now, and we'll get more into that later, is still creating like enjoyable content. Like the thing is, like, even if it's a Godzilla content that it's not like as big or best as another one, it's still enjoyable to have all this because as a kid, like, especially since it's, based foreign, like people knew Godzilla, but it was always just like, okay, cool, Godzilla. Nobody really knew. Even with the 98 movie, regardless, it did 200 million over here, but like it didn't create a phenomenon either. This is a phenomenon. This is the heart of like Japanese culture even. And now to see us take it and run the ball and see it everywhere, that's fucking wild. You know what I mean? And honestly, this movie, I mean, you've said a lot of words.
So it's hard because like, but that's the thing. Like when you see a Godzilla movie, usually like I would just be like, it was fun, it was exciting, things blew up,
and that's why I'm fine on it because like I would rather right now hear your perspective on it because you aren't as ingrained into that DNA as I am. So
exactly.
Like you already know I'm gonna like, even if it's a shitty movie. Like, listen, I didn't really like Kong versus Godzilla, especially at first, and it's grown on me, But I still enjoy it for what it is because it's still getting kaiju fight, and I'm a sucker for it, right? But to hear somebody like you who isn't ingrained went into it not knowing what to expect. Yeah, you're seeing good stuff out of it on the reviews and everything, and then you're going in and seeing it like, did Scorsese write this movie? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, right, exactly. Like, but. So for me, like all the words you said are definitely things I'm going to agree with. I loved this movie coming out of it. Like I didn't expect going into it to have a Godzilla movie that actually moved me in an emotional way because the characters were written so good. You're so ingrained. You care so much. So going out of the theater and sitting back and watching that and just like, oh, it was dusty in there a couple times. Like what's going on there was kind of surprising for me as well too. And to see this in this kind of live action, even after seeing Shin and how good this looks, they took the old school design. They went back with the old school design because it is Toho's, and Shin had still kind of some of that look as well too. But they digitized it again, and because that was also my concern too. Like, I get Legendary's doing the thing with the digitized, and we're all doing the CG. Part of the thing about the old movies was that you enjoyed that. They're on small sets, and there's two dudes duking it out, right?
And I mentioned to you before the show, I was like, I feel like that's why he's kind of like, I mean, look, $15 million doesn't give you a lot to a wiggle room to like make stuff, and obviously there's got to be cuts that got to be made in terms of special effects, but you can still do it very smartly to where like it looks great, but there are cuts being made. And I remember watching when I looked at Godzilla, I was like, okay, first of all, his eyes are fucking frightening. Like he is scaring me, but he also kind of had like this very static way about him when he'd move around, like. I don't want to say emotion, but he wasn't like in the new ones where he's like constantly looking around. I mean, this guy it was like a very static moving figure, and I was like, I wonder if they're kind of paying homage to the rubber suits, because I mean, you didn't have a whole lot of functioning ability in the rubber suits. No eyes that blink. He just stared forward with those dead eyes and just like, You kind of got a little bit there, but they also kind of added just enough to where it's like, okay, it doesn't look super static or super stale. He's got some movement to him, a little bit more in this snap, but like his eyes, dude, when he is in the water chasing the Minesweeper, I was just like, that is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, they managed. I told you, it was like looking at like Jaws' eyes.
Yes,
that almost like
I just want to eat you. I'm not thinking about anything else.
The right kind of dead eyes. Like just like these are scary and terrifying. And I'll say that again, all the characters were great. The things, like I said, you said a lot of words that I totally agree with, but what really got me, and I was waiting for it.
Hit me.
As soon as I heard it, I was waiting for it, and he hits town.
Yep.
And you get the visuals that you expect. You get the old school trope of the train as well too. And I was going here
the train. I was that's awesome.
You start hearing his actual theme song hit, and I'm like, motherfuck, that's all I needed.
Yeah,
that's all I needed was to hear his theme.
The soundtrack, you guys, it's available everywhere. Just fucking download it. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And the track that they use for the Minesweeper chase is actually fucking wild. There's obviously some instrumental stuff in there, but it's basically set against like an alarm, like a fire, like a tornado siren.
Oh, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, dude, it's like this constant, like it sounds like a fucking like tornado alarm, but it's got music mixed in around it, and like the way they shot that the Minesweeper scene was like pure cinematic bliss.
Yeah.
I was like, this director knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was paying homage to. He knew exactly how to shoot it and how to set the music to it. It was terrifying and so fucking well done.
Yeah, it was fucking amazing. So if you haven't seen this, if you're not a Godzilla fan,
quick reminder. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're not a Godzilla fan, it has been extended. You can see it. That's wild to even think that they've extended
unprecedented,
it to the 14th. It's made a fuck ton of money for a movie like this that normally doesn't. People are, even people that don't like movies or watch a lot of movies outside of certain movies or watch Godzilla movies, those people are saying this is their favorite movie this year.
It's great.
This is probably also my favorite movie. I'm trying to think what else came out. I got that. We go into such a rabbit hole with that, but it is most certainly one of my favorite movies this year. This is definitely one of the best Godzilla movies that's come out in a long fucking time. Is it the greatest Godzilla movie of all time? I can't debate anybody on that either, because I mean, it's really fucking good. Like,
it's good.
It's really fucking good. I can't wait for this to. If I had more time over the next few weeks, unless I'm watching Lord of the Rings, I may try to see it a second time.
Dude, if you go, let me know.
I will. But if not, you're damn right I'll be buying this day one.
Oh, dude. And I mean, and that's the thing. Like, usually for these types of films, they usually try to get these out. They expect to have it out pretty quick after digital release because they don't expect it to take off over here. They don't expect a huge audience, a huge draw. They're like, okay, this thing will be out there for a week, and we'll get it on digital ASAP. But now that this is getting extended to its theatrical run, which again is fucking bonkers. It's bonkers for a movie from like this to get extended when it's not tied to Warner Brothers or Legendary, and it's subtitled and all that stuff. I mean, that's incredible. So congrats to Toho. Congrats to everybody involved. This is truly just a great movie.
So Jeff just got out. He says he would argue yes with me, movie of the year and best Godzilla movie ever.
I mean, it's
Hey,
I would never argue.
Hell yeah.
Dude, forget about Barbie. I actually have not watched Barbie yet.
It's funny. I was talking about I need to still see that.
I have not. Too. I bought Oppenheimer, and I'm gonna buy. Oh, that.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Did you see your movies out?
Is it out?
The Scorsese one.
Is it out? The full cut out now?
Yeah. Oh no.
Wait.
I think that's dropping on Apple. This is just the digital release everywhere else. The Apple version is supposed to be the extended cut.
One I need to see.
Yeah,
clearly.
Gonna be dope, man.
But did you see that this is now whatever the spread is for Oppenheimer? This overtook Oppenheimer for money making spread, whatever it was.
Over how many theaters it was in per theater?
I can't remember what it was. I saw right before.
It did something where it was. I seen something about
it. Beat Oppenheimer today on something, but I didn't see the context because I was super busy at work and I forgot about it. So it did something. I don't know if anybody's caught that, but it overtook Oppenheimer something for a movie. Highest rated movie of the year. That's what it overtook. I
It
think
is
I'm
the
both. I think
highest
I'm. I
rated
think I'm
movie of
both
the year.
categories.
And it's wild, man, because, you know, like normal, whenever sometimes we go to Rotten Tomatoes, you see, okay, this movie scored high with critics, but it's kind of like somewhere else with fucking audiences. This shit is like at 97, 96. Like, it is tied together. I mean, like I said, man, if you go into this expecting a legendary Godzilla movie, you're probably going to come away somewhat disappointed.
Which is fine. I love them too.
Which is fine, exactly. But if you can appreciate the fact that they somehow will bring you close to tears in a Godzilla movie, I mean, for fuck's sake, dude, you got to give them credit. Got to give them credit. But no, make sure you check this out. The theatrical run has been extended through the 14th.
Yep.
Who knows? Word of mouth picks up. This movie starts making more money in
Yeah.
second week. They're like, fuck it. Just keep it in for the rest of the
There you
month.
go, Bake Thunder. You got to go tomorrow. See?
I'd rather they just put it out on digital so I don't have to pay $10 every week to go see it, okay? Let's just get it out on digital. But if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Check it out. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know what you thought of Godzilla Minus One. Where do you rank it with all the Godzilla movies? And is it your first Toho? It's my first Toho movie, and I was like, fuck, dude. I got to go back and watch all of them.
Well, maybe as an adult.
As an adult, once I can remember. I mean, as a kid, you're just like, oh, cool, there's a guy in a rubber suit killing everything.
I'm jerking off.
That's personal and on your